right, welcome back. We have Macabish Cults, Classics, and Horrors, Kimberly and Chris, the author. They're with us today to talk about horror and pretty much anything connected to it. And of course, that's a truck in my background. Good. But how are both of you today?
I'm doing very well. Had a nice storm, so I'm invigorated.
Storms are wonderful. It's a bright and sunny and boring day up here where I am, but I'm still feeling good. I got a good night's sleep for a change, so I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking.
I think the sun's
How are
lying.
you?
If the sun's lying, that's what it's doing.
Yeah,
right
it is. It's a dirty liar because it's really cold out. I stepped outside earlier and it's frigid.
Exactly.
But it is.
Oh,
The sun
wow.
is a dirty liar right now.
It's so true. Now, I know both of you have your podcasts and you guys talk about horror, of course. My first question is, it doesn't matter who wants to answer first, but first question is, are you involved in any online horror communities?
I'm not. The only one is like essentially my pages. It takes up a lot of time. People get really interactive. I get a lot of DMs, and also on TikTok, people who like horror love to talk about it. So it takes up a lot of time. And also, some of those horror groups can be closed groups, and I don't like that because they tend to keep people out, and that makes me nervous. So I just kind of stay in my lane and talk to my people on my pages, and that's good.
Well, in what sense nervous? Why?
Because it's kind of the difference between you know how there'll be like Star Wars fans and Star Trek fans, and how it can be really aggressively against each other.
Yes,
Horror
yes.
fans can be that way. They can be really like, this movie sucks, and if you like this movie, you suck, and you're terrible. I don't like that.
Are you serious? I didn't know it got
Oh,
to that
people
extent.
get crazy.
When have you ever experienced that?
I experience it pretty regular. Just on my pages. Now, I don't even need to block the people anymore because I block certain words because they will get on, and this is horrible. I can't believe you like this. The person who made it should never work again. They should die. That's
Oh, wow.
super aggressive. This is TV, folks. Shouldn't be that aggressive. It's supposed to be fun. It's a
That
movie.
is true. I agree. What about you, Chris?
No, I agree. I'm relatively active on Kimberly's page, and I love her posts and her little synopses and write-ups on movies, and that's kind of how we met. And of course, I'm a regular kind of guest on her podcast as well. I was quite active on the old Hellraiser fan site, Cenobite.com, but that has long since been shut down. Other than that, I don't really do a lot of online horror type groups, mostly for the same reason that Kimberly mentioned, is they can get very, very aggressive, and there's a lot of just negative energy floating around on a lot of them. If when somebody gets very polarized about certain titles, like the big argument of what does Nightmare on Elm Street 3, is it better than 2, is it better than this, or then it just people get the same, like Star Trek and Star Wars, exactly like Kimberly said. You can get very, very aggressive, and to the point where literally death threats are being tossed around in these forums. So I was, when I was active on Facebook more, I was in a few of them, but I had to remove myself because it was too much, and I felt like I don't need this in a horror forum where I'm going because it's something that I enjoy, and I want to hear other people's thoughts on this movie, that movie, this book, that book. But when your thoughts are the director is terrible, the writer sucks, the actors are horrible, I don't need to hear that. So
Exactly.
I kind of stopped all that sort of interaction for a while. I didn't need it in my life.
Did any of you make friends from any of the communities you were involved in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's, I think, one of the easiest ways to make friends is through hobbies.
Oh, yeah.
And I just tossed up my page on Instagram one day and started putting movie synopses, and people started interacting. I started interacting with their pages, DM each other. That's how I met Chris and Carlos. A lot of people that way.
I was gonna say we're a great example of that. We, when it was, I guess, really close to the beginning of COVID, when a lot of all you had to do was online, and we met pretty quick, and we kind of hit it off right away. So yeah, it definitely there, and I have friends that I had made on a couple of the Facebook forums who I'm now kind of off and on friends with on like through their various Instagram posts. But it does happen. You find people with similar likes, and you find people with even differing opinions who are at least open to have a conversation about it. Not the differing opinion of, oh my God, you like this movie, you're terrible, you're horrible, I never want to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I like these two. We can actually disagree, and it's not a problem. It's very normal. We make fun of each other for it, and we move on with our lives. It's fun.
And
Like
that's how it
it's
should
supposed to be.
be.
It's not disturbing.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy, and there's a lot of mockery. We throw back and forth. Especially about my choice of the wrong Steven, apparently, because I picked Steven Seagal over Stephen King. So.
Boo, tomato, boo. But it's supposed to be fun. We're not supposed to hate each other. We're supposed to be friends.
Do you guys know of any names that horror fans are referred to as? So Star Trek, Trekkies, and so on? Or is it just you guys are horror fans and that's it?
We're just horror fans.
Yeah, I've heard the term horrorphile, like Phile, tossed around, but I don't know that there is actually there's not like an official name for like Hellraiser fans or Nightmare on Elm Street fans or Friday the 13th fans that I'm aware of. If I'm wrong, I would love to know, but I've never heard them. I've never seen them. So Horrorphile is really the only one that I've kind of heard tossed around.
And anything else tends to be in those closed groups I was telling you about.
Yeah.
It's about separating themselves from the whole fandom. And again, so many of those groups become toxic so fast. I'm just like, no, thank you.
Yeah, they can be like that. I'm in a few groups as well, and sometimes you just have to click leave group. That's it. Without saying anything, you just politely leave.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it's so much easier than trying to get involved in their malarkey.
It's true.
During the pandemic, did you guys end up finding or coming across any movies that you didn't have interest in before? Just pertaining to horror, of course. Or anything under that umbrella.
Yes, anything having to do with Corona. Corona horror came out shockingly fast.
Very, very fast.
Yeah.
It's like they said, oh, we have a new virus. It's called coronavirus. 2 seconds later, there was a Corona zombie horror.
Yep.
And I was like, yes. It's terrible, and I love it.
Every minute of them, yeah.
Corona zombies.
Yeah.
Like, it was out, like, we went into lockdown, like, in March, and it was literally out within 3 days.
Oh, yeah. It's like they were waiting. It was amazing. And it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I loved it. There's a lot of just horrible movies that I love because they're fun. Sometimes they're funny. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're so ridiculous you just can't even believe what you're watching. I love that. And it confuses some people. Like casual horror viewers, they just don't get it at all. But hardcore cinephiles get it. When you watch thousands upon thousands of movies a year, then you have very unique niche things that you love that people are just like, I don't get it. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know why you like this. Mm-hmm. But hardcore cinephiles, horrorphiles know what I'm talking about.
Like Killer Donuts, for example.
That's right. Killer Donuts. Killer condoms.
Exactly.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff that I've been watching is honestly it's stuff that I'm seeing on Kimberly's page on her Instagram feed.
Okay.
Because like I thought I had an impressive horror collection. Hers blows mine away.
Well, I mean, I have to look at you guys' pages in the daytime. I don't do it at night. It's okay. I'm not creeping myself out. I'm good.
If I could watch horror movies like for 24 hours straight, I would, and I pretty much have a couple times.
I sometimes do. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
Supernatural, paranormal, yes. Horror.
Sometimes you get in that mood and you're like, oh, look at that. I have 12 Friday the 13th movies. I might as well watch all of them.
Oh,
well,
no, thank you.
But also, too, you might not know this, but a lot of horror fans, we actually use horror movies as coping mechanisms because we have traumas. And believe it or not, horror is an incredible coping tool because when you are in the middle of, like, you are just spiraling and you can't escape, watch a horror movie. All of a sudden, you're out of your spiral. By the time the movie's over, you feel great because you're out of that emotional spiral that you were in.
I'd be passed out in that spiral. What do you mean? No.
Coma counts, you wake up refreshed.
Coma counts, I love it.
Right? And have a nightmare while still in a coma in that spiral.
Oh my god, all you can hear is the audio from the horror movie, and it triggers like wicked, crazy nightmares.
But you'll be out of your spiral, see?
No, I'll be passed out in that spiral. Like I said, that's what's gonna happen.
Part of it too is, like I said, you focus on it, and then you get out of your spiral, and then we focus on different things. Like when you see like the most horrific thing you've ever seen, and you recoil, we lean in because we've seen so many movies. If we can be scared or disgusted, the level of artistry it takes to do that is huge. So we're like, how did they do that? That's amazing. Meanwhile, people are covering their eyes. They're like, I can't watch any more of this movie.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, this is amazing. Wow. We are really impressed by things that just people are like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Oh no, I understand all of it. It's just I'm not doing it at night or watching majority of it. That's all it is.
Right.
So I have to make sure I do it in pieces, or like I said, it's daytime and I can say, okay,
yeah,
I'm
true.
good. Yeah.
we had to watch Hellraiser at noon because otherwise it would have been too dark.
Exactly. Like, I'm not doing that to myself, but after watching Hellraiser, I realized, okay, I could have done that on my own. I would have been good.
Hellraiser is actually a really good example. It has a worse reputation than what it actually is. Like the reputation that Hellraiser has is scarier than what Hellraiser is.
I agree.
It's true. Right now, people are having a fight in my Hellraiser comment. I just posted Hellraiser. It was the one with the party.
Oh, the computer virus,
Hellworld, and it is just. I'm gonna have to block some of these people, but there's no Cenobites in this. What is this? This is barely, and it's kind of devolving into chaos that I don't like over on TikTok. But yeah, it's because again, what I've talked about before, people's idea of a movie tends to trump what the actual movie is. Like you'll look at a movie and you'll see all these terrible reviews, and then you read the reviews and you realize people are reviewing their disappointment that the movie isn't what they thought it should have been instead of what the movie actually is.
Yeah.
So usually if a movie has all this hype around it and that all this build up that doesn't make sense, that's what it is.
Besides that, I mean, Hellworld, as much as they're like you have minimal appearance from Pinhead, and you have to keep in mind that it was shot at basically the same time as the 7th movie, so they literally filmed 2 movies simultaneously.
Right.
But I mean, you have Lance Henriksen, and I mean, let's be honest, anything with Lance Henriksen in it is awesome because it's Lance Henriksen.
True.
And you also got like young Henry Cavill before he was Superman, so like there's a lot going on in this movie.
I like the movie. Like at that point we're very deep into Hellraiser. It's fine if it's different than the other Hellraisers. Yeah, it's fine.
You're right, exactly. By now we're 8 movies into this franchise.
Exactly, because then if it was more Cenobites and all that, then people would complain, oh, it's just like all the other 7 movies. So you can't really win for losing.
You really can't.
You might as well just do whatever.
I didn't mind the other ones. They didn't bother me. I understood that, things happen, management changes.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of, it's not going to be the same story that it was 100 years ago. People are going to want to, come up with their own way to film it.
Right.
Do you think that people are surprised, or are they surprised whenever they find out you have a horror podcast and how much you know about horror?
I think they're surprised, but not that it's a horror podcast. Like, people who know me know I love horror. But they also know I'm incredibly shy and I'm very terrible at public speaking and talking to other people. So then they hear it and they're like, you talk more on that podcast than you talk to me. Like, well, yeah.
You're in your own element, that's why.
Right.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. So even my own family is like, what? But it's not because of the horror. It's because of the talking. Because typically I'm very shy and very introverted. and I'm not a good public speaker. But then again, maybe I am. Maybe people just don't let me talk. On my own podcast, you better let me talk. Like, what?
If you don't, I'm just gonna edit you anyway. Dang that.
That's really all you gotta do.
Exactly.
Do you find that there are more women opening up when it comes to liking horror?
Definitely. The more female characters that we get that are strong, that really fight, because what we're used to is female characters just being grist for the mill. They show up, they get naked, and then they get hacked down. After a while, that wears on you. And then women are like, I don't want to see another woman hacked to death. But now we're getting stronger female characters. A lot, I mean, not just now, we're just getting more of them because, like, we have Sigourney Weaver, we have Eliza Dushku, we've got Sanaa Lathan, Octavia Spencer, she did Mom. We're getting more dynamic, more fleshed out female characters than we ever have, because usually women in horror are just victims.
Yeah,
and that's
it's usually
exhausting. And also women like pets in horror, which is hilarious. That's why if you see a synopsis and I'll say, oh, it's a dog in here, it's a cat, and I'm like, pet people maybe don't want, dog people probably don't watch this one, or dog people, there's an incredible dog in here, and they're like, and it's always women, like, ooh, I gotta watch this one. It's always women. It's hilarious.
Chris, do you have a favorite subgenre or era of film?
Subgenre or era? Wow, that's a good one. Oh my goodness. I don't know that I would call it my favorite, but I enjoy the like 1980s over the top sort of slasher era, and I think I enjoy it because that's really what got me into it. My first horror movie experiences were things like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday. And as much as I don't care for Friday the 13th, but like Nightmare on Elm Street is like my number 2 go-to franchise after Hellraiser.
Well, good. That's creepy. Great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, good.
So if I'm not getting you with the secret puzzle box, I'm getting you in your dreams. But yeah, but those are like, that's what drew me into it, and that it's that era of the 1980s, like when I was growing up, when I was, because I was born in 75, because I'm old. So like 85, I'm 10, grade 5, grade 6, that's when you start kind of, experimenting with that. Well, maybe I'll sneak downstairs and I'll stay up late and I'll watch the late night, like City TV, Elvira movie, whatever, horror movies, and she had a lot of the grindhouse type movies from the 70s and the early 80s she would air, and that's kind of that entry point for people of I guess of our generation, because I think we're all basically similar age. So that's what got me, and then I mean from there it just grew. It ballooned, honestly, from there. Once I discovered, it got to a point where I couldn't get enough. And then of course in the 90s, when you just had that like glut of direct to video horror movies, like the stuff from Full Moon Pictures and various other that were like, they were strictly direct to video, not because they had low production values or necessarily a super low budget. That was the market, and it really just that solidified. And then I started going back and looking at some of the older stuff, and some of the classic, like the Universal Monsters stuff from the 30s and things like that. So I guess the 80s, to make that really long answer into what you want, the 80s slasher genre is probably my favorite subgenre, and it really just because of the memories that it brings out in me when I watch them.
Nice. How did you both come together and say, hey, you know what, let's do this podcast? I don't mind, being on there with you. And I know you did mention that, of course, it was through Instagram having the same interests, but what was it that, you both were able to be like, hey, you know what, this is a good vibe. Let's do this. Let's continue to do this.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, honestly, Kimberly, I think it was your idea, because you said, like, this is what I want to do. Would you be? And I was like, okay, let's try it. Why not?
And I did some, did some episodes with other people. I understood that you really need more than one person for a podcast, because nobody wants to listen to one person just ramble on and on forever. And also, like I said, I like the casual, kind of friendly atmosphere. I want people to listen, especially if you're lonely. A lot of horror fans really are, especially during the time of the pandemic. and just to be able to listen to just chatter about horror, and then we have cool guests on. You know, we've had such good guests, so many good directors.
We've had such amazing guests.
And I want people to listen.
Yeah, I heard some of the episodes.
Yeah, and I just like half the time I can't believe that these people are saying yes. You know, like, I'll get a message from Kimberly and she's like, "Hey, Todd Jenkins said he wants to do it."
Nice.
What, really?
I just want people to listen and be surprised and be entertained. And you know, I found Chris easy to talk to, and he's usually available. And Carlos, we chat so much about horror. We enjoy horror, and even I like the way we disagree, and that's important. You want somebody to I want somebody to disagree with me sanely. I don't want something crazy to fly out of their mouth. I just want to, you know, it's like somebody says, "I love this movie." Somebody's like, "I don't like that movie at all, and this is why," and that's fine, and we move on. That's it.
A discussion versus an argument.
Exactly.
That's all it is. It's just a nice little debate or discussion. Now,
Right.
before we go, my final question for both of you is, what makes you happiest when it comes to either watching horror or you're doing the podcast itself?
I have to say it's one thing. For me, it's one thing. Watching horror, I'm gonna always love that, but being able to get someone from the movie that I just watched to come onto the podcast, and then we continue the conversation there. And my podcasts are long. We usually talk 3 or 4 hours, like really long.
Nice.
That's just an extension of the enjoyment of that movie.
Yes.
And I look at my podcast, one day it'll be kind of like a collection, because I'm a collector anyway. It's gonna be a collection of really great conversation I had with some of the best horror directors and actors. So it's just an extension, one thing for me. They're not different things.
All right. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, no, you know what? And that was so well said, Kimberly.
It was, right?
I don't know if I can follow that.
Yeah, it hit me a bit. I was like, okay,
Like,
well,
that was so great.
yeah. You.
You know, I mean, a lot of what Kimberly said, I really like for horror in general, because I've been a horror fan for as long as I have been. I can't really pinpoint a specific thing about it that makes me happy alone. That's the only thing. What I can say, what I really enjoy is, and I mean that might just be also because of just the way that I'm wired, I enjoy being able to delve into some of these stories that I really like and learning the history of them, or building, you know, learning the universes around them, or picking up pieces of the mythos. And I think that's what draws me to Hellraiser, is because there's so much available that is built on what was presented in like 2 movies at the start. So I really enjoy doing that. But I mean, as with Kimberly, I love being able to find like-minded people who I can actually have, I mean, an intelligent conversation with, and still have fun doing it. You know, it's not a political debate. It's not an argument. It's not a, oh, mine's better than yours, blah, blah, blah. It's none of that. It's, you know, open up. And horror fans, I find in general, which is something that's very appealing to me, is we're always open to watch something new.
Yes, that's true.
You know, and like I found so many people, horror fans, or even casual horror fans, who, you know, you mention a title and I'll think, for example, I'll mention Candyman, and I'll think, oh, everybody knows there were, you know, 3 previous Candyman movies.
Yeah, no, thank you. For one.
And a lot of people would say,
Out of
oh,
all
Candyman
movies.
just came out. Well, no, actually, it dates back to like 1993. Oh, really? Show me.
No, not me. That's what it is.
Okay. Anybody?
I'll watch the newer ones. The newer ones, because they just water them down so much. I feel like a champ when I watch the newer ones, but
Yeah.
the originals, yeah.
Well, I still remember when you watched the trailer to the new one, and even that you were like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, but I ended up watching it.
Excellent.
I
Did you
ended
enjoy
up
it?
watching it. You know what? For the most part, when I looked at the TV screen, it was good. So
Well,
that's
for you weren't hiding behind something.
You're right. but these days I'm watching a little bit more horror. Like I actually watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but not the original. I
Did you?
wouldn't. Yeah, the new one.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh,
I
you
mean,
did? You finally watched that. Good for you.
I pretty much figured they were gonna wrap up the first one for me because I refused to watch that one. So I said, hey, you know what? Watch the new one. They pretty much did. They kept showing that 70s photo they took
Yeah.
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I was like, yep, she's clearly the main character.
Right? They kind of beat you over the head with the fact
Yeah,
that
she's
this
the
was
one
a
that
1974
survived.
movie.
Yeah, and she's gonna be the badass now.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe kill him. And I couldn't believe how gross that movie was. And I watched that. Did you guys watch it yet or no?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That chainsaw going through, and he was just shouting, why? Like, this is insane.
The worst part of that is apparently that's not all the gross that they actually shot. There, from what I've read, there's actually a cut of that movie that's about 30 minutes longer that we may never see just because it's now a Netflix exclusive. So
Yeah.
we're not likely to get an actual like physical media, extended blah 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 release of it. But I would be very interested in seeing that extra, like that 30 minutes that got chopped out.
Yeah, me too.
Unfortunately, we do have to go, but I would love to have both of you back because this was too fun. And
It'd be
I've
great
been
to
watching
come back.
more. Oh, sweet. Sweet.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming.
I'll tag you in easier to watch horror movies.
Yeah. So you know what
Some
then?
of
The trailers.
some
The
of
trailers.
safer ones.
Just the trailers. That's it.
Well,
I just posted a trailer.
Clips.
Yeah. No glowing eyes, nothing. No glowing eyes, no none of that. It's just...
Oh no, keep eyeball stuff out of it. I know, eyeball stuff doesn't for me. That's it.
All right.
Thanks
Chris
for
and
having me.
Kimberly, yes, have a